Hi, and welcome to Getting to Know, or GTK. This is where I ask my guest a series of personal questions so we can all get to know them a bit more in a fun way. My guest today from Noosa is in Queensland is Blossom Goodchild. Blossom is a professional direct voice channeling medium. She has been channeling the Native American Indian spirit energy of White Cloud and the Federation of Light for decades now, and shares their message of unconditional love. What I love most about Blossom is her sense of humour and genuine care for us all. Welcome to GTK, Blossom. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks, Michelle. I'm really good. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Good.
Um,
Happy to be here.
oh, I'm so pleased. Honoured, actually. So this is about finding out about you. So if I can ask my first question is, what is your earliest memory?
Well, I find it hard re to remember my childhood a lot. I can pick up on things like when I was 2.5, my father he was in the theatre and what have you, and he made a little movie about me losing our Alsatian dog. And so that I remember that because I've seen the movie, if you see what I
Yes.
mean. I can see the movie now, but I can't say whether I actually remember doing it. And I really don't have a lot of I remember, but I don't know if it's my earliest one, because my parents were in the theatre. They ran a amateur theatre company, and on one show we were doing, we travelled to somewhere, and it was massive old theatre, and it was my birthday. I think it was my 8th birthday or something, and so all the children, we were doing our little bit on stage, and then at the end, somebody came on with a cake and asked the audience to put up their lighters. In those days when everybody was smoking, so they put up their lighters all over the theatre. I remember in the audience, and everybody sang me happy birthday. But other than that, I talk with my sister now and then, and she might say something, and I'll go, oh yes, that's right, and it'll trigger off something else and something else. But I can't say I have, especially from a younger age, I can't remember much at all of when I was really small. Can you?
No, I can't.
Oh,
I
good.
can't, but I think it's often things that were quite relevant, like a moment. I remember Mum could remember when her brother pushed her head under the water at a young age, and she never forgot it, and I don't think she ever forgave him either.
Yeah, no, very traumatic, I should think.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah,
she up and she passed away a couple of years ago, but she could never put her head under the water.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, it's, as you said, triggers can sometimes bring the memory back.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But you don't actually feel, you don't feel that memory.
Yes, so true.
Mm.
So if we go back a couple of years to when you were 18,
Just a couple.
so what were you getting up to then? Were you out partying? Were you
Not really. I was
studious? What were you
no,
doing?
not studious at all. I always wanted to go to drama school. That's all I ever wanted to do, was to go on the stage. And so I was at boarding school until I was about 17, and then I did a year at further education college. I did music and drama. And then I went to drama school when I was 17 or 8, around there, 18. So yeah, so I was, and then I did start to party quite a bit and sort of found life, because like I was in an all girls convent boarding school, and so to sort of be out with boys or whatever was like quite new to me and all that. And so I wasn't really, that type. I remember I played the guitar. I started playing the guitar when I was about 12 or 13, and I was obsessed with it for many, many years, and used to, just play away on my own for hours and things. And that was my thing. And my mum, I think, or somebody actually said to me, you know, do you want to try putting on a bit of mascara or something? Because I was like, now I go mad. But it was like, it just wasn't, you know, I just wasn't into the makeup and the whole sort of thing at all, really. I was very sort of just quite, I was quite extrovert, but I was also very shy, if that makes sense. And so going to drama school was a huge awakening, you know, for me, and really sort of, you know, helped me to find who I was at that time in my life.
And whereabouts was that?
That was in Guildford, in Surrey, in England. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So when did you move out to Australia?
20, 23 years ago now. So yeah,
2000.
yeah, yeah. My sister came out about 7 years before that, and so we came out on holiday and decided, you know, on the last day of our holiday, we were walking. My husband and I were walking along the beach, and the moon was shining on the water, and I was like, we could have this every day of our lives if we wanted to, and clearly meant to be, because it took us 3 years to get enough points and things like that. We had no money. We sold everything to get our plane tickets and all that. But it was just really, compared to others who had lots of money and still couldn't get in, you know, it was just meant to be that we came here. So we got in really easily. And White Cloud had always said, you know, your journey sort of will begin in the land of the rock, meaning
Oh,
Uluru, I guess, you know. So
yes.
yes, so
Wow. Um, so going back again, back to a couple of years ago,
yeah.
what was your first job, paid or unpaid?
It was when I was younger, I think, in school holidays and things. My father at the time had a camera shop, and I know nothing and still know nothing about cameras, but I had to sort of work in there. And I remember some gentleman coming in after lunch and asking me about this camera. Well, I didn't care either. I didn't, I just didn't care. And he asked if I was drunk because, because I just didn't know what I was talking about. Really, you know, really, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I've had many varied jobs. You know, when I was out of work as an actress and this, that, and the other. Um, but that's one of my earliest, I think. But I used to do a lot of nannying. I was good at looking after little ones, and or cleaning was my other thing when I was out of work, which I loathed. I absolutely loathed cleaning other people's houses. You know, some people love it. They
Yeah.
love cleaning other people's houses and putting flowers there for them and making me. I was like, no, I've got my own to do. Thanks very much. You know, I used to hate it. I used to hate it, but it was a way of bringing in money at the time when I wasn't acting or what have you. You know, so the nannying was far easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your first car? And when did you learn to drive? And
Yeah, I was about 17, I think, in England then, and my father gave me this really old, it was a Morris Minor Traveller, and it was sort of purpley colour, and it had the wooden panels, you
oh
know,
yes,
along the back. It was a great thing, lasted me for years. And I remember when it sort of finally had its day, I left it in my brother's garden area, and I went away for however long, 6 months, and when I came back there were sort of potatoes growing out of the wooden bit in the I was like, oh dear. But yeah, that was my first car. I've had many since. Many were really dodgy, you know, dodgy cars that you didn't know if it was going to get you from A to B. And so, you know, it was just really nice to have better cars as I got older. I've just literally swapped. I had for 7 years a big Holden Captiva thing, which is great for all the grandchildren, dogs, and all that kind of stuff. But now, literally in the last month or so, I've downsized to a little Suzuki that I just love because I couldn't park my Holden anymore. It was, you know, my kids used to take pictures of my parking and and take the mickey out of me. And so I've got this little thing which my son-in-law calls my mobility scooter. That's what he calls my little Suzuki. But I love it. I love it because it's so economical and I can just zip around in it, you know.
and it's easy to park.
Well, Interestingly enough, easier said than done, because when I was with my little grandson, he's 9 now, and we went to the local shopping centre, and I parked there and in my new car, and I got out and I was like, Ollie, I don't think that's got, and I still, this was, it was so badly parked because it was so small. I didn't know how to park that either. So I had to get back in and repark my new little car. And I was like, oh no. But it's actually, I've sussed it now. So, I can just whiz in. So yeah, all is well.
And what sort of music were you into in your younger days and sort of, and now?
Well, interesting question. In my young because I used to play the guitar and stuff a lot, I was really into John Denver. I really
yes.
used to love playing all his songs and this, that,
Yeah.
and the other. But I was also, because musical theatre is my passion and my love, I was also very much into a lot of musical theatre stuff. Not so much the old musical theatre, but when things like Godspell and Jesus Christ Superstar came along. My first acting job after drama school, I did Joseph 3 times in 3 different theatres. But it was a job. Of course, I was going to take it. But
Oh,
so
of
I
course.
love musical theatre stuff. I love that. But I don't. Yeah, I don't play music anywhere near as much as I should. I find I like the quiet, and then suddenly if I'm cleaning or something, I think, oh, now what shall I put on? And I'll remember something from days of old, like, I don't know, Carly Simon, or just different albums, or Bread, and
Yeah.
different things that we used to, and Dark Side of the Moon I used to
Oh,
play at drama school. We all
yeah.
used to, listen to that. And yeah, so I've got quite a varied. I never used to like classical. I used to don't like opera. I never got on with opera at all, and never really got on with classical music yet, because I had to learn to play the piano and it was classical and I didn't like that. But now it's not that I listen to a great deal of classical, but I certainly can appreciate it, a lot more than I did then. But I cannot listen to opera. It just doesn't
I'm the same.
it doesn't blow my blouse up, Michelle, at all.
There's a couple I can handle, but sometimes because I'll listen to the ABC radio in the car because there's no ads and and a lot of it's classical. And sometimes they'll bring an opera on and I'll go, shut up.
Yeah,
turn it
I
off.
know, it's funny, isn't it? And yet other people, it just opens their heart,
They-
yeah, each to their own.
exactly. And what about comedy? Now, I've picked up from some of your videos that I think there might be a bit of Monty Python influence there.
No,
No?
no,
Oh, there was
don't like Monty Python. No,
oh,
funny.
really? There was
No,
something that you said once, and I thought, oh, that sounds like Monty Python.
yeah, I know. It was not always look on the bright side of life. It is now for something completely
Oh,
different.
that's it. Yes.
What it was. No, just no offense to any of the team of that, but just it wasn't my, maybe a little bit, but certainly not now. And definitely the drawing, the animation of Monty Python and all that kind of thing just didn't. No, I just didn't like it at all. Really, I can't say that at all. But I did like, when I was younger. I really used to like the 2 Ronnies.
Yes.
Which reminds me of my chair, because the little Ronnie, used to have a little section of sitting in this massive chair with his
Right.
legs dangling over, like Noddy, and tell his little story. So I used to love them. And Morecambe and Wise, I used to really enjoy. And I don't know, I found when I came over to Australia, no offense, that the humor, I didn't quite understand the Australian humor compared to the good old British humor type of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, lots of things. Dave Allen I used to like, and people like that. There's a lot of, yeah, a lot of I'm trying to think of Les Dawson. I sort of like, he was an old, he was quite a funny comedian. So yeah, but I'd definitely say the 2 Ronnies and Morecambe and Wise were my favorite. Yeah.
And I remember Dave Allen, he'd sit there sit there with
with
a
a
cigarette
cigarette.
and a scotch.
Yeah, and he didn't have a finger missing or something, I
Oh,
think.
did he? I don't remember.
Yes, he did. He had a no little finger or something like that. So when he was smoking, he had his yeah, yeah. My father I used to sit and watch that with my father. He used to like him. Yeah.
And what sort of well, probably not so much now, but TV and movies that you enjoyed through the
Yeah.
years?
TV. It's funny how I remember watching things with my dad. And there was a program on called Manhunt, and
Oh
it was
yes.
about, yeah, it was really quite intense. We used to wait every week, to see what would happen. But there was also on the other side of it, what was it called? I can't think what it was called now, but it was to do with a concert. It was a comedy to do with the concentration camp.
Oh,
Um,
Hogan's Heroes.
Hogan's Heroes, and that we used to like that was things like that. Can't I mean I know my favorite movie back then, and probably is one of my still my favorite movies was Close Encounters of the Third
Oh,
Kind.
interesting.
I just loved that. I've got a little story about that in that um, we lived in a very disturbed house for many years, and we'd learned to not wake if we woke up in the middle of the night, not to open our eyes. And my sister had moved into our bedroom. I've told this story somewhere before, I think, on an interview. But and so one time I woke up and I felt this thing sit on my bed. And I called across. I didn't open my eyes, and I was going, Jill, Jill, and she said, come over to my bed. And I was like, I can't. It's still sitting on me. And eventually I must have got up and gone over there. And it I couldn't describe what it felt like. And then when I went to see Close Encounters, at the end, when that beautiful being, the tall being, just comes out from the crowd, I just burst into tears and I got shivers all over that because that it made sense to me that or something like that was sitting on my bed because there was no real weight to it, and yet I could feel something sitting there, and to me, and whether that was a little preparation for me talking with the Federation of Light now, I really really don't know, but that was an interesting thing. I just loved that movie. Yeah, yeah.
So with the Federation of Light and White Cloud, are you happy to share how that all came about?
Yeah, sure. I'll try and keep it as
That's all right.
condensed as possible. I know it sounds awful, but I think, people who do, have stories behind how they got to where they are. It's trying to say the same thing over and over with the same enthusiasm. Because I've clearly heard it many, many times, but one has to understand that there are people who haven't. So I'll try and condense it in that I'd always been interested in the spiritual movement since I was, I don't know, I suppose about 17 or 18, and started reading books and all that kind of thing on spiritual stuff. And then when I was about 18 or 19, when I was at drama school, I started having these fits, these attacks that went on for about 17 years on and off. Nobody could find out what they were. And eventually this clairvoyant came to stay with us, and I'd done the odd bit of healing because I joined a little spiritualist church in Bognor Regis where where my parents lived, and sort of got into the spiritualist movement a little bit. And I did the odd bit of healing, and I felt this Indian behind me, and I asked his name, and he said White Cloud. And, when I say odd bit, I mean 2 or 3 times a year, not a great deal at all. Anyway, this lady was staying with us when I was ill at the time, and she was very clued in. And she said, I have this Indian with you, now, and he's frustrated because he wants to speak. And would you get a pen and paper? And he'll contact you. And for me, I didn't go, what? It was quite, oh, all right then. I worked in a little crystal shop down the road and read many books and stuff. And so I just got this book and I said, well, I believe we want to make contact, and this contact was made immediately. And he said that this was White Cloud, and that we'd agreed to do this many moons ago, and if I was still up for it, to get this group of people together, and he would conduct this meeting. And from that day onwards, after 17 years, I never had a fit again. Once we'd made that communication, my fits just went away. And so for me now, 24 years later, it's like, was that my life? When I used to have these fits, intermittently, not obviously all the time, but every couple of months for 5 or 6 weeks or whatever it was. And I arranged the meeting, and he literally came through, and that was the beginning of this side of my life, really, in that way. And it just felt the most natural thing to do. And so the journey began.
And when you started recording it and hearing how your voice changes and how your body responds when the energy comes through, how did you feel about that?
Well, when he first came through, just 24 years ago or 25, it was, his voice was much deeper than it is now, and my face, although it changes sort of thing now, it really, I suppose it doesn't need to change to an old person anymore. But it used to really, it used to have, it used to look like this old man, and he couldn't open my eyes or move very much, and spoke really slowly. And it just seemed like, well, this is how it is, And then now, even if I'm just checking back over a video or something like that, I find it fascinating to watch my eyes sort of change a bit of a deeper color, and the voice that comes out of me. But it is just so, I guess I've been doing it for so long now that I don't think about it much, really. And I know for some people it like really is, well, some people think I'm making it up, but I can't do that. I've tried to make it up to see if I can make it up, but it just doesn't happen. And it's just such a natural thing for me now. And so, I can understand how odd it is for some people. But then on the other hand, if they're actually present, or they can, because White Clouds always says there are many reasons why I'm also an actress, because some people have to, one of them being that some people have to decipher whether I'm putting it on or whether it's for real. And the only way they'll know that is by feeling it in their heart, because his vibration is much higher than mine. And I know a lot of people, if they're in the room or even on video, people say that they just, when he looks into your eyes, people just start, I've seen it so many times, people just start crying, because he just has the most beautiful love that he brings through.
There was one of your videos a couple of weeks ago where he just was staring for about 3 minutes.
Was that him though, or was that
or it might have been the Federation?
Yes,
the Federation of Light. I did think it was them. And I'm watching you, and I'm thinking, you're not blinking. I've blinked so many times, and I'm looking for you to blink, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And the gaze, I could feel it. I could feel the love, and it does get emotional.
Yeah. I'm very aware, funnily enough, because that is the Federation, when they do that sort of staring into your being, sending love into your being. I'm very aware that I'm not blinking. My side of me that's still in, because I don't leave ever. And so I'm very aware of that. But it just somehow is. That's just the way it is. I don't know how it works, or I just go with it, whether I could, I'm sure I could blink, but it just is just like I just don't have the need to, it's quite it's quite bizarre how that's come about.
And it also, honestly, if anybody can sit there for 3 minutes as themselves and not blink, I think you'd have to put the matchsticks in, you know.
Matchsticks. Yeah. I have actually got some invisible. No, I haven't. Yeah.
And the Federation of Lights. So so White Cloud came first, and then when did the
They came
Federation
about
knock on your door?
Yeah, about 5 or 6 years later, I went for a reading, and this I don't do that anymore, but I did then, and this lady said that I was being asked to sit down at my computer every day, because with White Cloud it was meetings that were recorded and then put into books, um, which was easy. Whereas this, they said it would be very different to sit at my computer every day and telepathically get all this information through, and I didn't even know who from or anything, and it started, so I did religiously for a year, and the bridge was written by the Federation, and I didn't then truly at that time, I knew, White Cloud, angels, all that kind of stuff, but I really wasn't into the whole of the whole Federation of Light stuff and Galactic Federation and all that kind of thing. I just wasn't aware of it really as a reality or what have you. So it was very interesting, that process of making communication with them. So but guess, just meant to be, and it happened and it took place, and again, that, and they speak through me a lot more now, especially this last year. I think the last sort of 5 months maybe, when I do the chat and channels, then the Federation come through to speak, whereas it was a very rare thing for them to speak through me, because it was just too difficult, really. The energy, the vibration, or whatever, was just too difficult. Whereas I think, as everybody's vibration is lifting, then it's it's easier for their vibration to link in with mine now, I guess.
So that, I suppose, shows your own ascension at
Yeah,
this
yeah,
stage.
perhaps, yeah.
And where did you find Joe? I mean, his voice is just so beautiful and calming. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but sometimes if I can't sleep, I'm having difficulty turning off, I'll put one of your videos with Joe talking, and it relaxes me so much I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
And
His
and if it doesn't work, I'll just press play again.
Joe wrote to me. Well, Joe interviewed me a long time ago because he had a podcast. I think it was still called Enlighten Me then. And I think I've got that right. And he wrote to me to say, so I did this interview with him about White Cloud and everything, and that was lovely. And then he wrote to me a while later to say that he'd started recording the channelings so that he could listen to them when he went to bed and things like that. So I said, oh, I'd love to hear one. And in that time, then he would be saying Blossom and say the bit that I'd said, Federation of Light, say their bit, Blossom, and say my bit, and blah, blah, blah. And so so I wrote back, said, that's lovely. Would you like to do that on a regular basis? And perhaps I could put it up. So we did that. Yeah. And then people started to say, well, why don't you read your bit, Blossom? And I thought, well, and at the beginning, I hadn't really wanted to. But then I thought, yeah, okay, so that's how it began. So, and I've never met him. And so, I write it all down, and then I record my lines, my bit, and send it to him, and he records what I've written from the Federation, and then he mixes the two together. And it's just a perfect voice, isn't it? It's so
it's
calm and serene. Yeah, it's beautiful, just meant to be, and people get a bit confused because when they then speak through me, it's a very feminine energy. The sound of it, whereas I don't consider them male or female or individuals. They seem to come through as a sort of a consciousness type of feeling. I don't get the feeling of male or female from them at all.
And
good old Joe, bless his heart. And again, like, what do you do, Michelle? All for nothing. all for nothing, you know, just from his heart to help get the message out there, which so many people do, of translating the messages and all that. They all do it for love, to help the planet, you know, and it's just the most amazing team of people that I've never ever met, you know, that sort of you know, translate every week, and you know, into, I think it's about 9, I'm not sure how many languages now. It goes up and down really, so it's just amazing. I'm so blessed with it.
It's all how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
It's all part of our journey, and
yeah.
we're connecting because we were meant to, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
It
Yeah,
seems that way, doesn't it?
it does. It does. Just go with the flow.
On another video, I listened to some other people came in. One came in who I don't know what language they spoke. It sounded like an Asian-y type of voice, or any others that, yeah, through you. I don't
Do you
think,
mean light language?
oh, that might be what it was. Light
Yes.
language.
Yeah, it's very, I don't do light language very often. I find it very bizarre. And you know, light language, I find people who do it regularly, kudos to them, because you know, it's amazing. I mean, and when you do it, you can't make light language up. You can't, because it's too fast and your brain can't think that quickly. So when it does happen, you know, you sound a bit like a kid, I think, trying to speak in a foreign language, you know, going, you know, all that. I remember trying to do that, pretend to do that when we had the old phones that were on, in, you know, the pick up the phone type thing. And when I was a kid, because I just used to think it was so amazing if anybody could speak a different language, you know. But yeah, light language is a different thing, and I don't do it very often. And I never know what they're saying either.
So you're saying it, but you can't even decipher it.
Not, and I get a feeling
Yeah.
of it with the light language. Sometimes white cloud, which is always so beautiful, has come through and spoken in what I believe to be an ancient Native American Indian language, and that is beautiful. And and he's doing this, and you know, all this as he's saying it, and I've
Yeah.
got no idea, but I get an overall feeling of what he's sort of talking about, type thing. But it's just the resonance of the words and the sound that come through, just really beautiful.
So I'd like to ask you about Goody,
Yeah,
where you met him, and where he proposed.
he didn't propose. We had to get married to come to Australia.
Oh,
So yeah, and which was a real bummer, because neither of us wanted to get married again at all. And then we were applying to come here, and they said, you know, your application has been unsuccessful. And we were like, what? And they said at the end, however, because you had to have, Goody had to have been living with me for at least a year. And we hadn't lived together. We'd been together 4 years by then, but we only lived together in the last year. And so they said, however, should you be considering marrying Mr. Goodchild? I was like, what? Then they would reconsider the application. So we were both mortified, because we didn't want to get married again. We'd both had failures in our, you know, marriage, and just didn't want to. And it was quite confronting being told you had to get married. But of course we did it because we wanted to come to Australia. But I also realize now, Michelle, that we also did it because I needed the name Goodchild. You know, Blossom Goodchild.
oh, it's beautiful.
I would be so rich if I had $1 for every time somebody says, and what's your name? And I say Blossom Goodchild, and they go, oh, what a lovely name. Everybody said, without fail. It's just amazing. And I think, yeah, it just was, I was meant to marry him to get that. And we met on a blind date, actually, with some friends.
Oh, wow.
They'd known him for a long time and been very friendly with him and his ex-wife. And so, yeah, we met on this blind date. I went over to a dinner party, and as soon as he walked in the room, I was like, I fell in love. It was love at first sight. I was like, I'm going to marry you in my head. I just knew it. Well, I didn't know it, but I was just like, I shall make sure I'm.
You're the one.
It was just like, it truly was love at first sight. So yeah, that's how we met, really. And yeah, it was lovely, really, really lovely. Yeah, so yeah, he didn't propose or anything romantic like that. It was really miserable for 9 days. But I don't know why I say 9 days. We were both in this sort of huge depression, really. But in the end, when we did get married, I said, look, if we've got to get married, we might as well enjoy it, type thing. We didn't have long.
Yeah.
To do it. So, and we didn't have any money. So on the one day we got married in a registry office with just a few people, because the registry office wasn't open on a Saturday morning or something. So we had to get that legal part done. And then on the Saturday, at the back of my garden, there was an old outside of it was an old stream and really overgrown piece of land that belonged to the little shop next door. And I said, would you mind if we tarted that up a bit to get married? And they were like, fine. So all my friends helped, and I saved all cardboard cereal boxes and things, and cut out hearts and sprayed them silver and hung them on the trees. And
Beautiful.
we had such a lovely a really lovely sort of all. My ex-husband was the DJ, and my family, my mom and dad had split up and had all these different divorced things. We all came together, which is a great example of how it should be if you no longer live with your exes or whatever. It was a really good a good day. And somebody did donate the big marquee for the garden, which was a bit disappointing, because when we put it up, it looked like a cattle market. Filthy. And I was like, oh no, because we'd got all this stuff to wind around the poles and everything. So some friends came in, and we gave it a good scrub up and all that. And it really was a great day. Yeah.
So I've heard that, many of the awakened were a bit of a rebel growing up, often questioning the narrative. Would you say you were?
No, not really. Not when I was growing up. Well, maybe I was. Yes, I guess I suppose I've changed that. When my parents broke up when I was about 12, 13 or so, and I went to boarding school because of that. Same school, but became a boarder. And I just didn't get on with the whole religion thing, the God thing. So yeah, and the nuns bless them, it just didn't resonate for me, really. But it was only really when I think much later, when I was watching Charles and Di get married. And after a while, I was like, I've got to go for a walk. I can't stand all this. That I realized I was not a royalist, never been into politics, never been into anything, and still can't be. It doesn't compute with me. It just, that kind of life, that side of life, you could talk to me for 3 hours telling me something and ask me to relay 5 minutes of it back, and I couldn't. It doesn't go in for me. It doesn't.
I can relate to that, Blossom.
Yeah, it's like maths and things for me. It just, that side of things, I get in the sweat. It's just art. I'm arty. I'm creative. That side of things. So yeah, I never really. It was only in the much later years, that I've sort of got into the, become aware of this world and what goes on behind the scenes and all that kind of thing, and it still shocks me to the core, because we were brought up, as I was, there's heaven if you're good, there's hell if you're bad, it's in the Catholic religion type of thing, and just be a good girl and da 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 da. And then to sort of discover what is, I believe, to be really going on in the world, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And that's why we have, I think is that not why we're here? To change that. That's what I if I didn't feel that, I don't know what I'd do, because I don't know what the point would be if you didn't feel that you were here to do something about it. Just by being your light, it would just seem so pointless being here, really.
Yeah, so I agree with you on that. I've often wondered what's my purpose. It's more than
Mm,
being a mother.
mm,
Um, and yes, and it's not until the last 5 or 6 years that I've sort of, after learning about what's been going on, that I feel like I've really found my purpose.
yeah,
And
yeah. As have many.
yes, all of us who are waking up to what, well, I was going to say the truth, but we don't even know what that is.
No,
But we
no.
certainly know things that aren't the truth.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was was there a particular event that happened that really got you questioning the narrative that you remember, or different events? Any other?
Not, no, not that I can say, really. I just began to just realize, I don't know, it just all seeped in slowly but surely. Then I realized that there's no point watching the mainstream, and all that, and just that there's a whole different, what we're shown, that narrative is so not what is. But that's really been, I definitely say in the latter years, as I say, I can't particularly think of anything when I thought, yes, it was this. It just bits of information that filtered through that then conglomerated into this big mess of lies, really.
To say the least.
Yeah, yeah, mind blowing.
It certainly is.
Hmm.
So moving forward with all the changes that we believe are coming, what do you see yourself doing in the future?
Exactly what I'm doing now, really. Truly, you know, I'm very blessed. I really am blessed. I know I lost my husband, 15 months ago now. And that was a real humdinger for me. It was really, the hardest thing and I thought I'd been through some hard times in my life, as we all do, but losing him was really, really um, hard. But you have to find a way to work through it, and for a long time I just didn't care, to be honest. I just didn't care. That was my whole thing about anything. It's like, I don't care, whatever, don't care. Just had lost all, I suppose, to be honest with you, the magic had just, when Goody left, the magic went out of my life. From the minute I met him, the magic entered in, and when he left, and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to carry on, or why what do I want to carry on for? And I could say, well, yes, how lovely that I've got this gift with White Cloud, and that it seems to be helping, many, many people to wake up and find out who they are. But at the time, I was like, I don't care. I truly don't care. But obviously I would never, when I was in my 20s and that, I thought the world was such a mess then, or just I was depressed. And I did think about, should I commit suicide? But I say that laughingly, but at the time I was quite depressed. And I thought, well, no, I'm not going to do that. So I need to find a reason to be here, to stay here. And that was, in my 20s. And I started finding out about positive thinking and, just more walking into my own awareness, I suppose. And so I guess, since Goody's passing, and I'm very blessed to have, when I say contact with him, I feel I've gone through many phases with him, and I've had some beautiful, right, especially right at the beginning, I had beautiful contact with him that was so confirming. There was no question that is that him, isn't him. It was so profound. And so now, I've sort of moved to a different place with him, and I sort of like, what are you doing today then, Goody? I've sort of been able to come out of uh that place of just, I can't believe you're not here anymore,
The,
to
the
spend the
grieving
rest of my
process.
life. with you, you know. And you know, and so many people since then have written in to say that they've just lost their partner, etc., etc. You know, so it happens to everybody all the time, and it certainly will has made me stronger. Um, and so I've wandered off a bit there, but that thing of like having a blessed life, I really, you know, apart from him leaving,
Well, it's
I
part
have
of your
a
journey.
very blessed life. I really do. You know, I enjoy, you know, I feel very honored to have the gift I have. And I have, now and then, you know, I've just found out I've got an audition. I just got a little job in a little short film, and which is my passion. I run a little choir. So as long as I've got my music and my theatre, that I need my theatre to feed my soul. I always say theatre is my passion, performing is my passion, and this is my mission. This whole thing is my mission. So I truly, you know, as my life is now, I really enjoy, you know, I feel very blessed with the life I have. It would just be lovely if the world around me, you know, could move into a brighter place so that we all, you know, can find joy and just be how we were designed to be, and our planet be how it was designed to be, you know, and to live in joy and just no hate. You know, people are so, I find some people are, I find people offensive sometimes because of something, a sentence they might say, and it jars my my vibration because it's like, whoa, that's really unnecessary to say that about somebody, or you know. But then I understand that that's where they're at. And I'm not saying I'm greater than, I'm just a bit further down the road because I can't come from there about people. If people are really horrible to me, I don't think, you know, I don't think bad of them because it's like that's just they don't that's just where they're at, you know, and they'll move on and they'll move up and they'll move through. So it'd be nice if the whole world, if we could all love each other and love ourselves, you know, as I think that's the key, loving ourselves and then being able to, you know, deeply love each other and respect and appreciate each other.
And I think with that, it is really, it's about awareness, isn't it? When we become aware that we notice those things and that they do sort of or don't resonate with us, and
Yeah,
understanding that that's where they are right now. And like for me personally, and I think, yes, I remember I used to be at that level, and
yeah, yeah.
I'm so glad that I've moved up, that I'm aware. I think that the ascension for me personally, I feel that it's about awareness
Mm.
and catching yourself out when you have a cranky thought.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
Um and
Because those cranky thoughts, I can sometimes have thoughts, and I think that is not my thought. That is a thought coming from the ethers as a collective consciousness, you know, because my truth doesn't think that way. And it's as if something, you know, is trying to assassinate my joy and what have you. And so when, you know, I've really learned, I've said this many times as well, as soon as I have a negative thought and I recognize it straight away, I just imagine throwing up a tennis ball, which is that thought, and just whacking it into kingdom come, you know, just to release it and then replace that, and then it's gone from my being, and then replace that with the correct intent, you know.
I love that, Blossom. I think I think I might use that one. Yeah,
I do.
and go,
It's really good.
oh, I got an ace.
Yes, exactly. I just watched the ball just disappear into oblivion, you know.
So here's an interesting question, and I hope this doesn't throw you, but if you could invite 5 souls to dinner,
Yeah,
and table of 6, or more or less, the numbers really doesn't matter, but
yeah.
Who would you invite?
Yeah, and you know, so people know that I'm just not doing this off the cuff. You have sent me these, you know, some of these questions to sort of let me prepare. And this question has stumped me over and over and over and again. And I've said to quite a few of my friends, and that, who would you have? Who would be the 5 people at your dinner party? And I think, you know, years ago I would have had very different people, but now it's like, oh no, I don't think I'd have them, or you know, whatever. They might be a bit dodgy.
Ooh, I
But
know
so
about
I
them now.
just, yeah, so I just, my 5 I thought of were, I'd have Goody, because I'd like to know
Yes.
where he's at now and what he's doing, and you know, and how life is for him now in another realm. So I'd like him there. I think I'd like White Cloud there, as the Native American Indian, I guess, you know, when he last lived upon the planet, or just as his energy actually there as his Native American thing. I'd like Jesus there, the energy known as Jesus, to be there. I'd like, I wrote it down because it was too, oh, I know, I'd like a representative from another civilized, advanced
Oh,
technical and spiritual civilization, so that they could be there. And then my other one, completely different, would be Maggie Smith, the actress, because I
oh,
love her. I just think she could sit there and go, oh, you know, the whole time. And you know, I just think that those were who I came up with. There's, you know, again, that thing, well, I'd like to know the truth about that person who's no longer with us, and you know, but then when I thought about it, I think no, those would be that would make for an interesting evening, and it would need good conversation because my cooking is shit. I can't cook. Well, I can a little bit now. I've had to, but really, I'm not. You know, my dinner party cuisine would not match the level of vibration of the people attending.
oh, wow. What a wonderful selection. And I just loved Maggie in Downton Abbey. Her
Yes,
character was just beautiful. I
she's
just,
just superb. She's just superb. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, she
Mm,
sure is. Well,
mm.
that's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that about yourself and the words of wisdom that are included in that. Before we finish up, is there anything you'd like to add?
You know, really, what I guess most of us are aware of already is like, just don't sweat the small stuff. You know, just don't, it's just not worth it. It's just not to get too involved or attached to, you know, what's going on. And just, I just feel if it's up to you to create your own path and your own joy. It's up to you. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So, you know, spend your day, laugh. I laugh a lot here on my own. You know, I make myself laugh. I talk out loud and I laugh. And because laughter is the best frequency, it's just so good. And I just think to people, just laugh and smile and just do what you enjoy doing. And if you have to go to work and you don't like going to work, then make your work making that place pleasurable for everybody else. You know, there's so much we can do to raise the vibration of others because we've done it for ourselves. And just by doing that for ourselves, we could just walk in a room and the room lights up because of the work we've put in to, you know, and is it work to make yourself joyful? I don't think so. You know, it's a pleasure, but it's, I think the trouble is keeping on top of that, you know, when you can feel, we all have down days, but I think that's just okay, just to have that down day. And then you'll come good again, you know, to allow yourself that duality type of thing, and you'll come good, you know, no matter what. That's it.
Imagine, we hear of people organizing worldwide meditations. Imagine if someone, I'm putting it out there, organized a worldwide laughing. Everyone
God, yeah.
laughing
Oh my
for
God.
for a few minutes. And yes, we can make ourselves laugh.
Yeah.
Even and I find if I make myself laugh, that makes me laugh at myself. So
Yes,
it makes
yeah,
me laugh.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Somebody suggested as well about putting, you know, because the Federation spoke about water once and that, you know, how amazing it is. And somebody said, why didn't I organize a worldwide thing where everybody stepped into the water, be it the sea or, you know, in a bowl of water or something all at the same time to do that. And I haven't got around to doing that. So I perhaps might need to think about that and a worldwide laughter.
Well,
That's
you
a
could combine it,
you could get in the sea and laugh.
love and laughter.
Put your feet in a bowl, in your kitchen bowl,
That's it.
washing up bowl, and laugh. That's
Oh,
it.
I love it.
Uh, oh dear. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Michelle, for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
oh, thank you. So have I. And I'm sure the people watching have too. So I'll get links from you to put underneath to your channels, and for everyone else, please join the collective and Blossoms channels so you don't miss any of our videos in future. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.
Bye bye. Thank you.